Deku? Oh, I think he's some pro. By clouds. My head in the clouds, not coming down. Chapter 22. Venting. Group chat. Eraserhead.
Who wants to go out for drinks?
Mr. Brave.
Long day?
Eraserhead.
Let's say it this way. If the sun doesn't set right now, I will take Deku's gun and shoot it.
Miss Joke.
Not bad, huh?
Eraserhead.
Remember Deku telling us about Kachan?
Sir Nighteye.
Please say you know who it is.
Eraserhead.
He's in my class.
Mr. Brave.
Don't you mean was in your class?
Eraserhead.
No.
Miss Joke.
You didn't expel him?
Eraserhead.
Deku convinced me not to because our old teachers actively encourage the brat's behavior, but we're making him go to anger management therapy twice a week. If he doesn't improve within the semester, I'm kicking him to the curb.
Miss Joke.
As a teacher, I want to say that was the best decision, but as a friend, I want to tell you to send me this kid's address so I can punch him in the face.
Sir Nighteye.
We're heroes, Joke. We can't just beat up children.
Mr. Brave.
She never said she'd tell Kachan she was a hero.
Eraserhead.
No one's beating him up. Yet. Also, that's not the only thing that happened.
Miss Joke.
Oh? What other juicy details do you have?
Eraserhead.
I think it's probably best to discuss it in person. I don't necessarily need my opinions of the number one hero immortalized in this group chat.
Sir Nighteye. What did Toshinori do this time? Miss Joke.
What bar are you at? I'm on my way.
Mr. Brave.
Me too. I'm always down to hang out.
Eraserhead shared their location. Sir Nighteye.
Am I invited as well?
Eraserhead.
Sure, but I have to warn you that I'll be complaining about All Might the whole time. And I'm not gonna edit it. I know how close you two are, so if that makes you uncomfortable, don't come.
Mr. Brave.
Don't worry, old man. We won't hold it against you.
Sir Nighteye.
In that case, I think it would be best for me to sit this one out. Joke can give me the Cliff Notes version tomorrow.
Miss Joke.
Will do.
Shoto put his phone in his pocket when he saw Fukikado and Nakamura walk in. They looked around for a minute before spotting him at the bar.
Hey, Razor.
Fukikado slid into the seat next to him while Nakamura sat on his other side.
So, what do you want to talk about?
Shoto sighed. Normally, he wouldn't talk about what was stressing him, he'd just stew for a while until it went away. He didn't even know really why he'd gone to the group chat, but if anyone could understand the unmitigated disaster his day had been, it was these guys. He swallowed the rest of his drink.
So, Deku's in my class, right?
Right. Fukikado nodded.
And you said his bully is, too?
Shoto nodded.
I was just walking to class, preparing to teach them about situational awareness like I do every year. Wait, is this the trick you do with that stupid sleeping bag of yours? Nakamura asked, as he grabbed a handful of peanuts from the bar. I've heard horror stories about that thing from interns.
Shoto scowled.
It's practical. Doesn't stop you from looking like a caterpillar.
Fukikado laughed. Shoto glared at her.
Anyway, the way the kid said Deku's name, he said it like he was talking to a bug so disgusting he couldn't even be bothered to squish it. I had to activate my quirk just to keep him from exploding Deku.
Exploding him? Nakamura tilted his head, mouthful of peanuts. Shoto nodded.
Remember those burns all up Deku's arms? The other two nodded. The brat's name is Katsuki Bakugo, and his quirk is explosion, so his hands are basically grenades. His old teachers apparently didn't want to ruin his chances of being a hero, so did nothing to curb his violent tendencies. In fact, from what we could tell, they actively encouraged him and purposely created opportunities for him to torment Deku. Who's little? Fukukado was practically vibrating in rage. That's not what a teacher is supposed to do. I swear. Shoto shook his head. The only reason I didn't expel him on the spot was because I knew that Deku would blame himself for it. And we already have a hard enough time convincing him that not everything is his fault without throwing the expulsion of his childhood friend into the mix. Okay, I get that. Nakamura rolled his eyes. But is it bad that I still kind of wish you expelled him? Fukukado reached over and cuffed him over the head. Don't pay attention to him, Erasa. He doesn't know the difficulties of raising the next generation. That's because he is the next generation, Shoto muttered. Nakamura gasped in betrayal as Fukukado laughed and clapped him on the back. Alright, Erasa. So what happened next? So I decided to give Bakugo until the end of the day, and took the class out for the quirk assessment test, which Deku totally aced, by the way. I had him come up with a strategy for the class to take me down, and they managed it in less than 5 minutes. I swear it was one of the most impressive things I've ever experienced. Fukukado pretended to wipe tears away from her eyes. That's our boy. But then he went to heroics. Nakamura raised an eyebrow and gestured for him to continue. He was paired against Bakugo in a battle exercise. Fukukado gasped. No, is he okay? Shoto rubbed the bridge of his nose. No, he is. He was brought to Recovery Girl with burns all over his body from an explosion large enough to blow out a wall. Why Bakugo thought that was a good idea is beyond me, but I don't have any idea how that kid's brain works. He took a deep drink of the beer the bartender had just brought him. Deku still won, by the way. He actually shot Bakugo and another student, multiple times. Fukukado laughed. Good for him. Shoto chuckled. Yeah, and apparently it was a good wake-up call for Deku, too. He stopped calling him Kachan, at least. Fukukado and Nakamura cheered, and Shoto shook his head at their dramatics. I was ready to expel him, obviously, but Deku insisted we give him a chance to change. He rolled his eyes. I get where he's coming from, but part of me wants Bakugo to mess up so badly that we'll have no choice but to expel him. He sighs. But if he does manage to clean up his act, then it's theoretically better for everyone, right? Fukukado pouted. A lot less satisfying, though. Shoto nodded solemnly. A lot less satisfying. But Nakamura leaned toward him. You promised beef on All Might, and you haven't even mentioned him yet. Shoto scowled so deeply that both Nakamura and Fukukado leaned back instinctively. Oh, that's coming. All Might is the heroics teacher this year. Really? Nakamura said in surprise. For some reason, I can't really envision him in a classroom. I didn't even know he had his teaching license, Fukukado said. Shoto grit his teeth. He doesn't. That idiot doesn't even have his teaching license, and yet he had the audacity to suggest that Deku doesn't deserve his place in the hero course simply because he's quirkless. There was a beat of silence before Fukukado stood up. Where does he live? She asked, rolling up her sleeves. I swear, I just want to talk. Shoto growled. Trust me. If it wouldn't destabilize Japan, he would already be dead. Both Nezu and I tried to convince him that Deku was more than capable of being a hero, but it was like he couldn't even hear us. He kept pointing to the fact that Deku got hurt in the exercise as proof he was weak, despite the fact that Bakugo was clearly trying to hurt him, and the fact that it was his own damn responsibility as a teacher to make sure that no one got hurt. That jerk!
Fukakato slammed her fist onto the bar, earning a half-hearted glare from the bartender.
Who does he think he is? It's not even the best part.
Shota laughed humorously and took another drink.
Turns out, All Might met Deku a year ago. I think around the time he reached out to us. All Might had just saved this kid from a villain, and Deku took the chance to ask if he could be a hero even though he was quirkless.
Fukakado's face twisted in sympathy. Until he met us, no one had ever encouraged his dream. He was probably desperate for any positive reinforcement at that point.
Nakamura nodded. Of course he'd ask the number one hero for encouragement. All Might's always encouraging kids to chase their dreams in interviews, telling them to reach for the stars.
Shota shook his head.
Apparently, he doesn't live up to his own hype. That idiot thought the kindest thing he could do for this child, who I remind you had just been through a highly traumatic experience, was to violently crush his dreams. Even if he didn't know about the bullying, he should have at least had more tact than to tell the kid to his face that he could never be a hero.
Seriously?
Nakamura scoffed. Did All Might even ask if the kid had any skills, or did he just hear the word quirkless and write him off? I'm pretty sure it was the second one, Shota said. He admitted that Deku's smart, but tried insisting it'd be far too dangerous for him in the hero course. It was ridiculous. He shook his head. Thankfully, Nezu stood up to him. He made it clear that Deku was in the hero course and that fact wasn't going to change. But we're gonna have to keep an eye on them and make sure All Might doesn't try and crush Deku's spirit again. He sighed. After the life that kid's had, I'm not sure how much more he can take.
Fukakato put her hand on Shota's shoulder.
That sucks.
Shota nodded numbly.
Dang it.
Nakamura scowled as he looked at his phone.
I'm so sorry, Eraser. My agency just texted me, and they need me to come home tonight and cover another guy's patrol because he got sick. Are you gonna be okay?
Shota shrugged, and Fukakato draped her arm over his shoulders.
Don't worry, Brave. I'll take good care of Eraser here.
Nakamura snorted.
Now I'm even more concerned.
He shook his head and waved goodbye.
Good luck, Eraser. Don't leave any traceable evidence when you kill All Might.
Fukakato laughed, and Shota scowled as Nakamura left. When he was gone, Fukakato looked at Shota.
How you holding up?
Shota let out a puff of air.
I don't know, he said honestly. I'm angry, but part of me knows I'm probably blowing things out of proportion because I'm tired. So either I need to punch All Might or sleep. Maybe both.
Fukakato chuckled and nodded.
Yeah, I get that. Maybe you can dream about punching All Might. That way you can kill two birds with one stone.
Shota scoffed.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? But is it really satisfying if I'm not punching his actual face?
Fukakato laughed again, but then her expression turned soft.
It's understandable, Eraser, she said. You're allowed to be angry right now. Deku is more than just a student to you, he's your friend, and I know you see him as a son.
Shota scowled at that, but Fukakato simply flicked him on the nose and continued.
Don't even try to deny it, Eraser.
She stared at him in mock seriousness.
I see everything.
And that made Shota roll his eyes, and Fukakato only managed to maintain her expression for a few seconds before she burst out laughing.
No, but seriously,
she wheezed, as she finally calmed down.
You're allowed to feel hurt.
Shota sighed.
It's irrational, he said. Being hurt and angry doesn't help anything. It just makes you sloppy and you make stupid mistakes.
Fukakato hit him over the head.
Stop that. Emotions are not irrational, Eraser. Yeah, if anger is the only thing you're focused on, then you're gonna have a hard time, but as long as we're keeping things in perspective, emotions can make life more interesting.
and satisfying. She looked at him softly. You're angry because you care, Erasa. And that's a very good thing. Shota shrugged.
I don't know. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Fukukado laughed at him and patted his back. So, you gonna be okay? He sighed.
We'll have to see tomorrow. I still might decide to kill either Bakugo or All Might as soon as I see their stupid faces.
She chuckled. If you get arrested, I'll make sure to feed your cats. Shota glared at her half-heartedly as she stood, but she just stuck her tongue out at him. Come on, Erasa. Let's get you home, she said. Tomorrow's gonna be another long day. Shota sighed, but finished his drink and paid. He didn't even tell her to go away as she walked him home, talking his ear off about her students and their first day. She had a second-year class this year, apparently, so she was having to make sure they didn't get too big for their britches now that they were no longer at the bottom of the totem pole. He just nodded along, occasionally humming or giving 1 or 2 word answers when she asked a question, oddly content to just listen to her meaningless chatter. When they reached his apartment, Shota unlocked the door and stepped inside.
Good night, Joke.
Good night, Erasa. Be sure to take care of Deku for me. She smiled softly and kissed him on the cheek. He stared at her for a long moment before she seemingly realized what she had done, which made her blush and practically run down the stairs. Shota's mouth hung slightly open as he watched her leave, his hand still frozen on the doorknob. When Fukukado had made it to the bottom, she glanced back and gave him a shy wave, which he returned numbly. Shota didn't close the door until she was gone. Chapter 23. Therapy. Hey, Bakugo! Kirishima came up to him after English. Do you want to hang out with us during free period today?
You're right, shitty hair. Like I'd ever hang out with you.
Katsuki scoffed.
Even if I wanted to, I've got shit to do.
Kirishima smiled and shrugged. It was worth a try. Hey, Ashido, wait up! Katsuki rolled his eyes as he watched Kirishima leave with those other high-energy extras he'd eaten lunch with on the first day. They probably wouldn't even want to hang out with him if they knew he had to go to fucking therapy during free period today. He scowled. Stupid Deku. If it weren't for him, Katsuki could be sleeping, or doing literally anything else right now, rather than stomping his way towards some stupid shrink's office. The door was plain, tucked away in a less trafficked part of UA, and had Hound Dog written on the metal plate in the center. What kind of hero name was Hound Dog anyway? He considered straight up blowing the door off his hinges, but considering he was supposedly there for anger management, that probably wouldn't go over too well. He settled for pounding on the door instead. Come in! Katsuki opened the door and looked around until he caught sight of Hound Dog standing by his desk. Okay, he could admit the guy looked pretty badass, but that still didn't mean he had to like him. Hey, Hound Dog said. You must be Bakugo. Katsuki scowled.
What's it to you, you mutt?
Hound Dog let out a barking laugh. Yeah, they warned me about you. Why don't you close the door and sit down? Or would you rather sit there catching flies? Katsuki slammed the door and stalked over to the couch, throwing himself down heavily. The soft material was probably meant to make him feel comfortable or peaceful or something, but joke's on them. Katsuki didn't do soft. They sat silently for a minute as Hound Dog typed something onto his computer. Katsuki tried to get comfortable, but he kept sinking into the couch, so he ended up just clenching and unclenching his fists until he couldn't take being ignored any longer.
So what?
Katsuki sneered.
You want me to fucking talk about my feelings?
Hound Dog shrugged.
I want to talk about your life,
and eventually, sure, your feelings.
But this visit is for me to get to know you more than anything else. Why do you even have to get to know me?
Katsuki scowled.
You're just gonna try and change me anyway. So why do you need to know who I am?
Hound Dog tilted his head slightly.
What do you mean?
Katsuki scoffed.
You fucking know what I mean. You're trying to make me into some vanilla cookie-cutter weakling. You don't care about what I want, you just want me to be nice.
He glared at Hound Dog.
I don't do nice.
Hound Dog nodded.
You're afraid we're trying to make you into something you're not. I'm not scared,
Katsuki yelled.
And you are trying to make me into something I'm not. I have to act exactly how you want me to, or else you'll kick me out. You're trying to get rid of my entire fucking personality.
Ah. Hound Dog grinned.
You see yourself as an angry person, so now that you're in anger management therapy, you feel like we're targeting who you are as a person, rather than an emotion you feel.
Katsuki opened his mouth to disagree, but then thought for a moment.
Wasn't that kind of the point?
They were trying to change him. They were targeting his personality. Weren't they?
Whatever.
He crossed his arms and slouched deeper into the couch.
It's not like you're actually going to be able to change anything. Soon enough, everyone's going to realize Deku's a loser. And they'll just forget about this whole thing, and everything will go back to normal.
Hound Dog nodded. That has been what's happened in the past, hasn't it? Katsuki didn't answer. He just glared at the wall, wondering how much trouble he'd get in if he blew it up.
We don't have to change your personality if you don't want to.
Katsuki looked at Hound Dog in surprise, but quickly schooled his expression back into a scowl.
What? Isn't the entire point of this to have me singing Kumbaya by the end of the semester?
Not necessarily. Hound Dog shrugged.
The point is to make sure you don't hurt other people. But the things that make you who you are, like the swearing and the yelling, aren't bad in the right context.
Katsuki looked at him skeptically.
What are you saying? That I can be nice?
He spat the word.
And still be a jerk? You must be a bigger idiot than you look if you think that's possible.
Hound Dog chuckled.
Bakugo, there's a big difference between being brash and being abusive. Take me, for example.
He gestured to the muzzle covering his face.
I'm not really a nice guy. I get so angry sometimes that I forget human speech, and I'm definitely not gentle, even when I'm with my friends. My aggressive personality comes along with my quirk, same as yours does, but it's not a bad thing because I don't use my personality as an excuse to hurt people. Does that make any sense?
No, Bakugo scoffed. But it kind of did. Maybe therapy wouldn't be so bad if he wouldn't have to change everything about him. It would still be pretty bad, though.
Let me put it this way,
Hound Dog said.
How would you like to be on the receiving end of one of All Might's full power punches? The kind that changes the weather?
Hound Dog nodded, smiling, and Bakugo stared at him.
This guy wasn't just an idiot, he was insane. That would fucking kill me.
Hound Dog laughed.
Yep, getting a full power punch from All Might would hurt like hell and probably kill you to boot. So why does he still punch villains? He holds back, you idiot.
Hound Dog nodded and hummed.
So? Objectively, he's still violent. I mean,
He doesn't try and bring villains in by offering them flowers and holding their hand and singing Kumbaya. Katsuki threw his hands up in the air. I guess. So how is that different from your anger? Hound Dog asked. Bakugo, if you learn what you do that genuinely hurts people, you'll be able to hold back on those behaviors just like All Might holds back on his punches, while, at the same time, maintaining the fierceness, and yes, even the rudeness that makes you who you are. Katsuki sat silent for a minute. So, I don't have to lose who I am. Hound Dog shook his head. No, you don't. You're in control here. I'm not here to force you to become something you're not, just to make sure you're not going to keep hurting people like you have in the past. Katsuki glared at him. I'm not going to be nice. Hound Dog shrugged. I'm not asking you to be. You're a brash person, Bakugo. Just like me, and if I don't have to be nice, you don't either. Bakugo scoffed. So, you really think I can be myself and still say it UA, huh? Hound Dog grinned behind his muzzle. It's just a matter of honing your bark, but reserving your bite for the villains you fight. Bakugo rolled his eyes and laughed. Shut up, Mott. Don't try and have a sense of humor just because you think it's funny. Hound Dog laughed again. Oh, but I am funny. He stood up and opened the door. I'll see you in a few days, Bakugo. Don't forget what we talked about, okay? I'll forget if I want to, Mutt, Katsuki yelled. You're not the boss of me. Hound Dog chuckled and waved as Katsuki stomped down the hall, back towards Class 1A. That guy obviously didn't know what he was talking about. Katsuki couldn't just be nice and angry at the same time. It was just impossible. Besides, even if it was possible, Aizawa and that stupid rat-faced principal wouldn't be happy until they'd squashed his personality. Kirishima was waiting in the hall by the time Katsuki got back to the classroom, a few minutes before the bell. Hey, Bakugo. He smiled with sharp teeth, and Bakugo rolled his eyes. How was your free period? Katsuki just scoffed and shoved past Kirishima. Get out of my way, shitty hair. Kirishima laughed and stepped aside. Glad you had fun, dude. Katsuki glared. I didn't have fun. Kirishima shrugged. Whatever you say, dude. Good luck next class, by the way. I hear Midnight's a total sadist when it comes to art history. I don't need luck, Katsuki huffed. But Kirishima just patted him on the shoulder and went to go sit down. Katsuki found his own seat and put in earbuds for a few minutes. Maybe that stupid Mott was onto something. Probably not, but maybe.